highlights of the ups and downs of women's rights in America. Our revolutionary forefathers left out foremothers when they said, all men are created equal. For the most part, women couldn't own property or hold jobs other than housewife, domestic servant, or teacher. Most were dependent on husbands, fathers, or brothers. Family planning was hardly mentioned. And women couldn't even vote to change things. Some brave souls paved the way, but were ridiculed. In 1792, Mary Wollstonecraft writes a vindication of the rights of women. Safe, reliable methods of birth control were in their infancy a half a century later. In 1844, Charles Goodyear finds a new use for his galvanized rubber invention, condoms. New York, in a revolutionary act, in 1848, passed the first law allowing women to own property. Birth control might be available, but male lawmakers didn't approve. In 1873, the Comstock Act makes all forms of birth control illegal, but an underground market flourishes. Utah, in 1880, was the first state or territory to grant women the right to vote. In 1888, the first bill to let women vote in all Arizona elections is laughed off the floor in the territorial legislature. Women didn't give up. From 1880 to 1920, women worked for decades facing opposition and ridicule to gain voting rights. In 1912, however, Arizona women successfully passed an initiative giving them the right to vote in Arizona, winning handily in all counties. Abortion for any reason was illegal. In 1918, Arizona doctor Rosa Boito started a 3-year prison term in the Florence prison for performing an abortion requested by a young girl and her father. Modern family planning began to emerge in 1916 when Margaret Sanger opens the first birth control clinic, for which she was jailed. The movement evolves into Planned Parenthood in the 1920s. Soldiers played their role. In 1918, condoms were made legal after World War I troops returned home with them. In 1920, the 19th Amendment gives women the right to vote. It was another 15 years before birth control became widely accepted. In 1936, the U.S. Supreme Court strikes down portions of the Comstock laws. In 1937, the American Medical Association recognized birth control as an official part of medical education. But safe, reliable methods were still far in the future. In 1940, Lysol becomes the most popular birth control method, despite studies showing that nearly half the users became pregnant and hundreds died or became ill. In 1960, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approves the first birth control pill. Extremists again set the clock backward. In 1964, the Mexico City policy was passed, denying U.S. family planning money to organizations abroad that have anything to do with abortion. But reason prevailed in some areas. In 1964, President Johnson signed the U.S. Civil Rights Act, prohibiting discrimination in many areas, including gender. In 1965, Congress repealed the Comstock laws, making birth control legal. In another backwards movement, states like Arizona went against progress. In 1972, the Equal Rights Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is sent to states for ratification. With only 3 more states needed to ratify, Arizona says no. The 1982 deadline passes and the amendment fails. The Supreme Court seemed to have settled the abortion debate in 1973 when they approved Roe v. Wade, making abortions legal in most situations. Anti-choice advocates countered Roe v. Wade with new methods. In 1985, a year of pain and fear is launched, whereby family planning and abortion clinics are targeted with vandalism and violence, leading to decades of anti-abortion activism, including murder. In 1998, the first morning after pill was approved in France and approved in the U.S. 1 year later for use with a prescription. But extremists still opposed family planning. In the year 2000, the Bush administration launched a series of attacks on women's rights, including denying funds for a variety of birth control activities at home and abroad. Women did move forward towards equal pay for equal work in 2009, when President Obama signed the Lilly Ledbetter Act, giving women increased rights to sue for equal pay for equal work, extending the time period for bringing suit. But anti-choice and anti-family planning extremists accelerated their war in the state legislatures. Between 2010 and 2012, a record number of anti-abortion and anti-birth control laws were introduced in states across the nation, 27 in Arizona, many of which pass. You've come a long way, baby. We have come a long way, but we're not all the way there yet. What are you going to do?